Chernobyl's dirty secrets. Crime without punishment.
There has been a nuclear accident in the Soviet Union, and the Soviets have admitted that it happened. The Soviet version is this. One of the atomic reactors at the Chernobyl atomic power plant in the city of...
It is known that from the very beginning of everything, the nuclear accident at the Chernobyl Nuclear Power Plant was completely classified, and the communist regime repeated its deceitful mantra, "Nothing threatens people's health." However, documents from the highest levels of the Soviet Union, including notes, protocols, and diaries of Politburo sessions in the immediate aftermath of the Chernobyl nuclear disaster in 1986, say a different story. These documents reveal that the Politburo first met to discuss the Chernobyl accident on April 29, 1986, 3 days after the explosion. Then a flood of messages beginning May 4th document the hospitalization of area residents. Judging from the minutes, the number of patients was growing daily and had already reached several thousand. For example, classified, minutes number 12, May 12, 1986. A total of 10,198 people have been hospitalized for examination and treatment, of which 345 show symptoms of radiation sickness. But most of them were released and sent home. It seems that the more the radiation spread, the healthier the Soviet people became. And here is the reason for this unexpected miracle cure. Classified, minutes number 9, May 8, 1986. The Health Ministry of the Soviet Union has approved new acceptable levels of radiation to which the public can be exposed, and that are 10 times higher than former levels. In special cases, levels up to 50 times higher than former levels are acceptable. The Kremlin was willing to do anything to conceal the extent of the radiation exposure. Only 2 months had passed since residents had been evacuated from homes within a 30-kilometer radius of the plant, when the authorities hurriedly began the opposite process: resettlement. Classified, minutes number 29, June 23, 1986. Report on the possibility of returning children and pregnant women to areas with radiation levels within the range of 2 millirems per hour to 5 millirems per hour. To put this in perspective, the US government sets the maximum allowable exposure of an adult working with radioactive material at fewer than 6,000 millirems per year and recommends that human fetuses be exposed to no more than 50 millirems per month. Another highlight from the Kremlin's criminal acts is its secret recipe for making radioactive meat and milk edible. It reads, "Top secret. Resolution of the Politburo of the CPSU Central Committee on May 8, 1986. Minutes recorded by Comrade V.S. Murakovsky. When slaughtering livestock and pigs, it has been found that their meat can be made fit for consumption by washing the stomachs with water and removing the lymph nodes." Apparently, the Politburo was thinking of new ways to make fillings for pierogi. Later, it was recorded this: "Distribute meat contaminated by radiation as widely as possible throughout the country and use it in a ratio of 1 to 10 with normal meat to make sausage, canned and processed meat." 5 years after the Chernobyl disaster, Deputy Prosecutor General Andreev gave this written answer. From the period of 1986 to 1989, the indicated areas produced 47.5 tons of meat and 2 million tons of milk with higher than acceptable levels of contamination. These circumstances placed approximately 75 million people in dangerous living conditions and created conditions for increased mortality, a higher incidence of malignancies, a greater number of deformities. For 1.5 million people alone, including 160,000 children under the age of 7, the thyroid glands in 87% of the adults and 48% of the children were exposed to radiation doses of 30,000 millirems. 11% and 35% respectively were exposed to doses from 30,000 to 100,000 millirems, and 2% of adults and 17% of children were exposed to doses exceeding 100,000 millirems. An exposure to radiation of 100,000 millirems guarantees cancer. The Chernobyl disaster had other fallout. The economic and political toll hastened the end of the USSR and fueled a global anti-nuclear movement. The disaster has been estimated to cost some $235 billion in damages. Belarus, which saw 23% of its territory contaminated by the accident, lost about a fifth of its agricultural land. At the height of disaster response efforts in 1991, Belarus spent 22% of its total budget dealing with Chernobyl. Despite these horrific figures, no top official was ever prosecuted for the multiple acts of criminal negligence for both the Chernobyl incident itself or the rescue mission afterward. Even in Bulgaria, criminal proceedings took place for those who had lied to the people about the radiation. And we did not have those who were guilty in the Chernobyl outrages under the party bosses, who called to intensify propaganda efforts aimed at the exposure of false fabrications of the bourgeois information and intelligence agencies about the events at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. The top priority for the Communist Party bureaucrats was to strengthen propaganda measures and to hide the dirty facts behind the Chernobyl accident. What remains of the reactor is now inside a massive steel containment structure, deployed in late 2016. Containment efforts and monitoring continue, and cleanup is expected to last until at least 2065. Today, Chernobyl beckons to tourists who are intrigued by its history and its danger. But though Chernobyl symbolizes the potential devastation of nuclear power, Russia never quite moved beyond its legacy or its technology. As of now, there are still 11 operational RBMK reactors in Russia,